Elon Musk has made massive strides in the world of technology. His spacecraft company, SpaceX, has been working to make its ambitious dream of colonizing Mars a reality, while Tesla has revolutionary plans that will change the face of electric vehicles for years to come. However, these are not the only areas Musk is actively interested in. Musk's newest focus is on expanding internet access through Starlink, a set of satellites that become an internet infrastructure. The development of the project began in 2015, but exactly how is Starlink planning to provide internet to the people? In this video, we're discussing how Starlink plans to provide internet to the world. Starlink's main goal is to provide internet access to rural populations that don't have access to reliable internet service already. How does this happen exactly? Through a whole bunch of satellites. SpaceX's plan to use thousands of satellites that are connected to deliver an interconnected internet network anywhere in the world. The satellites are approximately 260 kilograms and they minimize volume to maximize on the launch capabilities of SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket. The plan includes anywhere between 12,000 and 42,000 small satellites in low Earth orbit, as well as a system of ground stations and user terminals so customers can directly connect to the network. In early September of 2020, the company confirmed that employees had tested the system's latency and download speeds in a limited private beta test. Initial results were promising as the tests showed low latency and download speeds over 100 megabits per second, a key statistic for an internet provider. These kinds of specifics mean that one could stream multiple HD movies at one time and play online video games. SpaceX also recently tested to see if it could use space lasers to connect two satellites in orbit. These lasers, which are sometimes known as inter-satellite links, would allow the Starlink network to exchange data in between satellites in orbit. Typically, the satellites would have to beam data back and forth to the ground. SpaceX tested two satellites that were already in orbit and equipped with the inter-satellite links. Tests were successful with the two satellites transferring hundreds of gigabits of data. If these space lasers were used consistently throughout the Starlink network, as SpaceX is planning, Starlink will be one of the fastest data transfer options on the globe. The Starlink program is making considerable progress. In July of 2020, SpaceX told the FCC that they were building 120 satellites per month in addition to the small terminals necessary for customers to connect to the network. The company has launched nearly 900 Starlink satellites as of October 2020. This number is enough to begin providing service in some rural areas, such as the Northwest United States. SpaceX also announced a partnership with Microsoft in October of 2020 that would connect the Azure Cloud Computing Network to the Starlink network. Both tech companies are currently testing the necessary software and infrastructure. The partnership will allow customers who need cloud computing capabilities in hybrid or challenging environments, such as remote areas, to connect to Microsoft's new mobile data centers. SpaceX began their Better Than Nothing beta program in 2020. In this beta launch, initial service was focused on the United States and Canada, with rapid expansion in 2021 to cover most of the globe. Potential subscribers can fill out a form detailing their contact information and location on Starlink's website. The form was posted in June, and nearly 700,000 people across the United States had indicated interest in the first 2 months. Initial Starlink service is $99 per month plus a $499 upfront cost to cover a Starlink kit. The kit includes a user terminal to connect to satellites, a mounting tripod, and a Wi-Fi router. There's a Starlink app listed on the Google Play and Apple iOS app stores by SpaceX. Despite initial success in small-scale trial runs, however, Starlink warned interested potential customers that data speeds and latency would vary over the coming months as engineers develop and enhance the system, with the chance of brief periods of no connectivity at all. Financially, SpaceX's newest project looks promising. The Federal Communications Commission, or the FCC for short, awarded the company nearly $900 million in federal subsidies to support rural broadband customers. SpaceX won a tenth of the $9.2 billion in funds that were awarded to 180 companies. The subsidies are supposed to be an incentive for broadband providers to reach unserved areas that are typically harder to reach in the United States. The subsidies will be distributed over the next 10 years in the form of equal monthly payments, provided the providers meet all milestones for serving the areas bid and won. In the auction, SpaceX was the fourth highest awardee in terms of dollar value. Musk's company also won subsidies to bring service to customers in 35 states in the U.S., winning 642,925 locations. This win marks a major advancement in SpaceX's personal presence as well as their Starlink project, since the 642,925 locations mark their first major customers. So how much will all of this cost? SpaceX has estimated that the Starlink system will cost at least $10 billion to build. However, leadership in the company believe that Starlink could bring in up to $30 billion per year. This figure is over 10 times the annual revenue of its rocket business. There are some unexpected non-financial costs to the program as well. For instance, in Canada, some people have been reporting sightings of the satellites at night in a train-like formation. In response, SpaceX committed itself to making their satellites less visible. One method of reducing the visibility was to add a visor to each satellite as a way to prevent the sun's reflection. With so many satellites in low orbit, it may become more common to see satellites among stars in the night sky. The satellites do have a lower environmental cost, though. Starlink meets or exceeds all regulatory and industry standards regarding debris mitigation, according to their website. At the end of their lifetime, the satellites will deorbit over the course of a few months using a system that is already on board. If the system becomes inoperable, the satellites will burn up in the atmosphere of Earth within 5 years. This is less than the time frame required at higher altitudes. In rural areas of Canada, Starlink has already provided a great deal of improvement when compared to former internet services. Interest in the beta testing exploded when the Canadian government announced they had approved SpaceX for use in rural parts of the country. The prices for the service were close to that of the United States. In some areas, such as the indigenous Pikin-Gickum First Nation in northwest Ontario, download speeds were sometimes only 2 megabits per second. The federal government in Canada considers 50 megabits per second a standard minimum for broadband. Residents often complained of being able to open large email attachments and trouble with connectivity during video chats. At the end of November, Pikin-Gickum became the first Indigenous community to get access to Starlink. In the initial phase of installation, 60 dishes were reserved for homes and businesses in the community. Potentially another 40 could be installed by the end of 2020. Residents report speeds of 144 megabits per second. They hope that Starlink will provide opportunities beside better connections. For example, victims of crimes might be able to testify virtually, which would lessen burdens already placed on them. The community also hopes that they will be able to access virtual healthcare services and education as well, which they previously had trouble accessing. The community is comprised of 2,800 smaller communities and is only accessible by plane. Currently, the community is pleased with the results Starlink has delivered. The promising results bode well for a country in which only 40.8% of rural communities have access to adequate broadband. This need is only exacerbated by the global coronavirus pandemic, which has caused rates of streaming and internet usage to increase. While not everybody who signs up to receive information about the beta testing is chosen to participate, those who are chosen and decide to participate seem to be pleased with their results. So, what's next? SpaceX is working on increasing the speed of Starlink services to 1 gigabyte per second. That would mark an improvement of 20 times the speed of the beta service. With such a quick and successful expansion, it's only natural that Starlink will continue to grow. Eventually, we might be seeing more stars than satellites when gazing into the night sky, and it will all be due to Starlink.